Hi everyone, hope you all doing well. Welcome back to our channel. From this particular video, I'm going to get started with Microsoft Sentinel, and this will be the first video of the entire series. Now, before you go ahead and start learning about what is Microsoft Sentinel, there are certain key aspects that you should know. For example, what is a SIEM solution? What is the purpose of SOAR? How exactly Log Analytics Workspace works? What are the components which are related to Log Analytics Workspace? Because fundamentally, Log Analytics Workspace is used for all the data ingestion. And then you should also know what is Azure Arc. Now, I have already created enormous amount of content when it comes to these three components. And if at all you have not seen these three playlists, go ahead, at least watch selective videos that can give you an idea about what exactly Azure Arc is, how exactly Log Analytics Workspace works, and what is the purpose of SIEM solution. Now, this is just a recommendation because if you watch all these videos, anything that I'm going to explain will be exceptionally relatable, and it will become slightly easier for you to understand how exactly this solution works end to end. Let's begin by knowing the very first aspect, and which is cloud native solution. Now, when you read any documentation by Microsoft, it's been clearly highlighted multiple times that it's a cloud native solution, which fundamentally means that you don't need any on-prem setup to use Microsoft Sentinel as a solution. It's just two different portals, practically speaking, that you can access to set up entire Microsoft Sentinel, since it's a cloud service. Now, the purpose of Microsoft Sentinel is to offer you SIEM capabilities and SOAR capabilities. Now, the question is why you need them? The answer is very fundamental: to protect your entire organization, be it multi-cloud environments or your on-prem data center. Now, Microsoft Sentinel also offers you a single console for entire incident management, which can be accessed by your SOC analysts. Microsoft Sentinel also offers end-to-end RBAC to make sure that the right set of individuals can view the right set of data. Now, since it's one single console which can help you with the collection of data, detection of anomalies, you can investigate threats, you can perform deep investigation, and you can also respond to alerts by creating custom playbooks, or let's say logic apps, in whichever way you want to understand. Now, if I talk about how exactly these two components work, the capability of SIEM, which basically means data ingestion, adding correlation rules, analyzing alerts, is something which is done by Log Analytics Workspace. Now, what do I mean by this? That you will ingest all the data to Log Analytics Workspace, on which you have already set up Microsoft Sentinel. And then you will use Microsoft Sentinel console to create rules that should detect alerts. Now, if there is something which can be automated, you will use Azure Logic App to build playbooks. Okay. Now, if I talk about the fundamentals again related to these two components, SIEM, as we know, has two different capabilities: security information management and security event management. Microsoft Sentinel, or let's say Azure portal itself, gives you the capability to configure anything that's moreover related to Log Analytics Workspace. And since you will be ingesting all your data to Log Analytics Workspace, every data is available on one single access, which is the logs access itself, and you can go ahead and interact with that data. Similarly, Microsoft Sentinel console itself gives you the privilege to create rules with which you can perform incident handling. And when it comes to Azure Logic Apps, there are more than 1,000 different connectors which are already available. You can just go ahead and activate them and use as per your requirement. Now, when you will start reading the documentation of Microsoft Sentinel, this is a very common image that is available on learn.microsoft.com. And it kind of depicts the purpose of Microsoft Sentinel, where everything starts with data collection itself. Now, here it clearly highlights that security data across your enterprise. This fundamentally means that you can collect data at cloud scale. Since it's a cloud native solution, there is no configuration or there is no profiling which is required from a hardware level perspective. it can accept data up to a scale which is unimaginable for a dedicated on-prem environment. Moreover, no on-prem setup is required. Okay. And you can ingest logs of any format. It's not about specifically related to, let's say, Windows or Linux or CEF or JSON or some other format. Any format of log can be ingested to Microsoft Sentinel. And obviously, the reason behind that is because you have Azure Log Analytics Workspace, which gives you the privilege to create custom tables, right? When it comes to detection, you can detect threats with vast threat intelligence. What does this typically mean? That the moment you enable Microsoft Sentinel, or let's say you start using Microsoft Sentinel, you get access to MDTI, which is Microsoft Defender's threat intelligence. And it's just a connector that you have to establish, and then you will start getting all the TI feed to your Sentinel, to your SIEM solution, practically speaking. And then when it comes to the application of TI data, you can go ahead and create rules and perform deep investigation. Now, it also shows you investigation, and with the help of, let's say, guided by AI. It shows here critical incidents guided by AI. This typically means that there is a default rule which is available in Microsoft Sentinel, and it is termed as fusion rule. And what it does, it combines the data from multiple sources, and then let's say there are multiple sources which are generating low fidelity alert. Okay, then it can combine that for you and have a new or create a new high fidelity incident for you. Okay. Moreover, when it comes to AI, since AI is a buzzword as of now, there is a capability to integrate your Jupyter notebooks. Now, the purpose of Jupyter Notebooks is to again interact with the data which is already captured by Microsoft Sentinel, and you can practically develop your own models, analyze the data which is already ingested in Microsoft Sentinel, and perform an investigation which is AI enabled. When it comes to respond, here it says rapidly and automate protection. It typically means that with Microsoft Sentinel, you can perform automation in the form of automation rules and playbooks. These are two different components altogether. So if I fundamentally break down these four words which are typically listed in the documentation of Microsoft Sentinel, what you will see here is the first aspect is data collection. Now, when it comes to Microsoft, everything starts with data connectors. In Sentinel, the very first step that you have to do is to onboard the data connector so that you can ingest the logs. Now, there are multiple methods of data ingestion as well, which we'll talk about in the upcoming videos. But as of now, just assume to begin with, you need a specific data connector to be onboarded, and then you can ingest the logs. The next aspect is moreover related to analytical rules, data correlation part, which I was talking about in my SIEM playlist, where multiple solutions are generating a low fidelity alert, but then you have created a rule which will combine those alerts and create a high fidelity incident for you. Then from an investigation perspective, you have the privilege to use KQL to interact with the data which is already captured in your log analytics workspace. In fact, there is a dedicated section for threat hunting as well. And lastly, for responding, it is obviously a manual process which can be done by your SOC analyst, but then you also have playbooks to go ahead and build automation. Now, connector is fairly simple because you have to ingest logs, and that is something for which I have already created a dedicated video, which we will be discussing. But just to show you a glimpse of analytical rules, this is how it is. I mean, you will write your queries combining multiple sources. You will perform all the operations which are typically available with join. And let's say there are again 4 different solutions which are generating low fidelity alert. With the help of this particular rule, a new incident will be created for you, and that will incorporate all the data which is specifically related to these alerts. When it comes to playbooks, it is fundamentally a logic app which is going to use multiple connectors depending upon your requirement. Now, there is also one aspect which is moreover related to Azure Monitor, precisely speaking, because it gives you the privilege to incorporate workbooks. Think about workbooks as interactive dashboard where it will show you a summary of what exactly is happening with your workspace or with a specific connector or with a specific data source altogether. So whatever you see here right now, these are all basically custom queries written with the KQL, but then these queries are embedded into a workbook so that you can interact with the data that you see over here. Okay, so there is one aspect called dashboard. You have written a query, you can see the data, but then when it comes to workbooks, these are all different buttons. You can interact and manipulate the data in the way you want to see it. Okay, now when it comes to accessing Microsoft Sentinel, as of now, there are two different portals from which you can access, because initially it was only available on portal.azure.com. Okay, so let's say if I go to my browser and if I go to portal.azure.com, this is my Microsoft Sentinel instance. And the moment I'll click on this, this is my Sentinel console. But lately there is an integration that has been introduced wherein you can actually integrate Sentinel with the XDR portal itself. Basically, what it fundamentally means, you can onboard Microsoft Sentinel to your XDR console so that you can have one single view for everything that's happening in your environment. Okay, so if you have done the integration, let's say, then this is the particular section that you will see over here, which is again going to list all the different set of options which are available with Microsoft Sentinel. Okay, so to summarize, Microsoft Sentinel is a cloud native SIEM solution, and this is just an introductory video in terms of making you understand that what is the purpose of data connectors. This is where everything will get started, and then you have analytical rules to be very precise. You will create multiple conditions, you will combine alerts from multiple sources so that you can have an incident, and then you also have a dedicated section of automation. Now, as we move along with this playlist, I'm going to explain each and everything, all these options, how to set up Microsoft Sentinel, how to get started, what is the purpose of a table, how exactly data ingestion works. Okay, so this was all about this particular video where we discussed about a small introduction to Microsoft Sentinel, how exactly the SIEM component works, what is the purpose of SOAR. In the next video, I'll show you how to get started with setting up Microsoft Sentinel. So if you think that this channel is helping you to learn anything new, please feel free to subscribe and share this video with your technical community. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.